Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys in a Ride, and today we are out here at the Back to the 80s car show, and we're here with Eric. And Eric, tell us what we're going to look at today.
It's a 1981 Pontiac T1000. It's the T chassis, or the Pontiac version of the Chevette.
We watched it rolling as you drove, and we said, we got to go take a look at that. So what was your interest in getting this car? I mean, why not a Mustang or something else from the 80s?
Well, I've got a couple of Mustangs. Actually, three of them. I'm mostly a Mustang guy, but in my family, we had some Chevettes, and most families did. Usually, like my mom had one, and I remembered riding around with her in that, and the T chassis was a little bit more rare in a Pontiac version, and I just happened to find it in about 2014.
Okay.
I rolled across it on Craigslist. A guy was selling it. I'm actually the second owner of this car because it was Air Force Base property at the North Dakota Air Base until about 1991.
So because it was government property, it wasn't titled.
Right.
So then when that guy bought it, then you bought it, so it makes you the second owner. Wow.
Yep. So even though I didn't buy a car till it was many years old, I was actually the second owner by buying it in 2014.
Which is very unusual.
Very.
Now, wow, how many miles does it have on it?
Just over 70,000, which is pretty low. I'm not sure exactly what they used it for up at the air base, whether it was driving out to the bomber or some far air strip or to run to town. I'm not sure, but it really didn't see the roads or salt much, so it stayed in decent condition, and it must not have seen a tremendous amount of sun.
Because this was up in North Dakota.
Yep.
Where they would have salted roads during the winter.
I would think so.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I lived up there for a while, so I can tell you they salted, well, at least when I did, they salted them. Now, the paint on there, it's really nice job. Has
it's
it been
a repaint?
Yeah, it is,
no,
okay.
I reshot it. It's a bit of an amateur job. I got as close to factory as you can see. Yep. You can find flaws, especially if a guy looks sharp, and when you do work yourself, you know all the flaws.
Well, you know the flaws, but you know, driving down the road, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and it's close to the original. It's got a little bit of flake in it. I don't think the original, if you look at the doors,
the metallic flake
doesn't have any.
Would have been more of a flat red.
Yep.
Okay. Now, on the back taillights, there were some differences between this and the Chevys. So.
Yep. The main difference is just the lenses. They were like a square blocky section on the Chevettes, and the T1000s have this almost Mustang-like tail, which I actually have a 93 Cobra, and these look a lot like the taillights off of a Cobra or an 86 Mustang. Okay.
Now, I'm talking because my cousin had a Citation, and just some memories of driving things that were similar to this is going flashing through my head.
Yeah, they're bare bones, that's for sure.
You know, so let's talk about the engine first before we talk about the interior. So how much horsepower is it producing?
A whopping 70 horses is what it was rated at.
Man, and I see you only have a single belt, and it's only running between two pulleys. So
It only spins the alternator.
So what are you powering in the car?
Radio, the dash lights, and a dome light.
So so there's no air conditioning?
No AC.
No power windows?
No power windows.
How about steering and brakes?
No power steering, no power brakes.
Wow. So really bare bones.
Yep, absolutely. Just transportation.
Now, you have not refinished the engine at all.
I haven't done anything under hood.
In fact, it's
been dressed or shined a little bit, but that's it.
That's it. You've got the original GM hosing on here.
Yep.
Doesn't that scare you a little bit to drive with that still attached?
Well, I live in Lakeville, so it's not a real far walk or tow if this show doesn't, if this is a failure point.
So we were talking earlier about all the areas that are extra covered in the engine bay for rust. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you can see that they even from the factory, they shot all kinds of just big ugly undercoating into some of the seams, probably knowing in tests that it would rust. rust, and you can see there's some bit of repair on some of the shock towers that look like those collected moisture and things like that. So if a guy's really going to go nuts with it, there's probably some things to do there. But yeah, they kind of just very primitively went after rust protection. And you know, today we're used to cars that might be 15 years old and only start to be having a little bit of rust, that might have galvanized panels and plastics. All this stuff did its best to become an air vent within a couple of years back in those days.
You know, for not having touched anything, the engine looks remarkably clean.
You can see if you look up at the cam covers, it's missing a lot of that funny blue paint that they used on GM engines in the early 80s. It's kind of a pastel blue, a little bit like the real older Pontiac colors.
Okay, let's talk about the interior a little bit. On the inside, I mean, it is an amazing condition. Has it been redone?
I have not touched the interior. The interior is absolutely factory and original. A little crack in the dash, maybe to prove it. You can see the only difference in the interior from it and the Chevette that I've been able to notice is the Pontiac symbol in the center on the steering wheel, and then the Pontiac on the dash instead of where it would say Chevette. But otherwise, you get the cigarette lighter and the push-button AM radio to pull out the lever and push it in.
Wasn't even FM.
Oh, well, yeah, actually, yes. This one is AM, FM, but they did come as AMs as well.
Okay, and you know, for people that haven't looked at this, you know, this vintage of a car before, they're gonna look at that air conditioner and say, "Well, wait a minute, you have air conditioning. There's a blue line.
There's a blue line, and it says cold."
And what was that for? Mental comfort?
Yeah, I think so. As a kid, I remember flipping it to cold, and nothing resembling cold ever came out of that vent.
No, they didn't.
It was simply whether or not you were ducting air through the heater core.
Okay, so then on your steering wheel, I mean, absolutely no controls, no buttons whatsoever.
Nope.
You've got turn signals and wipers.
Yeah, this car, being that the T chassis came out of Europe, it actually doesn't have the floor high beam dimmer. That's actually on the stock, and you do have wash and wipe on that. You sort of have to time it though. If you turn it off and the wipers aren't in the bottom position, that's where they stop. They don't come back to home. They freeze wherever you stop it. So it's kind of funny.
Other than that, because you got a speedometer, you've got a fuel gauge and an absolutely huge opening. That fuel gauge uses like the top quarter, but
yeah.
And then you've got it looks like an oil pressure and engine temp then in the middle.
Yeah, those are just the panic lights for if you lose voltage.
Oh, they're
or
the
oil
lights.
Pressure,
Okay.
Or they're just those kind
okay,
of.
Those were the dummy lights.
Those are the check engine lights of their day.
And as far as you know, everything on the dashboard works. All the gauges still work and everything.
Yep.
Okay, and then on the this is a manual shift. How many gears did you have? Four plus reverse.
4 on the floor. So in the days that I remember being a kid, people would say they drove a 4-speed Vette, but they didn't say whether it was Corvette or Chevette.
So we mentioned before that there are manually cranking windows. So that's what that dial or that lever does. You have to actually physically crank it up and crank it down. Well, you do have pocket storage right there.
Yeah, you can put whatever fits in that. Whether it's I don't know, a couple of inch opening. I don't remember putting much on there. Probably a map before the days of GPS.
And you would add this, of course, what is a keyed ignition, so you'd have a physical key to start it.
It has 2 physical keys, the rounded GM key for the door.
So no key fob?
No key fob, no keyless entry.
So if you lock the car and you come back and you want to open it, you had to stick the key in and physically unlock it?
Yep.
And it didn't unlock both doors?
The round key for GMs will unlock both doors in the trunk, but only the square key will start the ignition.
I remember that. But when you unlock this door here on the driver's side, it only unlocks the driver's door.
Correct. It doesn't do any good for the trunk, or you're putting your groceries in, or letting your kids in.
All right, let's take one quick look at the very, very back here, just to show folks how absolutely clean this car is.
Sure.
I mean, this was cleaner than anything I ever rode in. Wow. It's actually in the raised floor in here. You would think the floor would be down further.
Yeah,
What's underneath?
There is an underneath. So
okay,
some people
tire?
might remember you had to, there was this threaded insert and what is really just a carpeted piece of cardboard. And then you had, even in this car, with as little as the tires are, there's a space saver version of the spare. I guess the extra pound it saves maybe makes the car just that hair faster or get another micron of fuel economy.
That's hilarious.
You get the bumper jack and the, and the space saver spare and the characteristic GM splatter paint.
And then you have your shocks coming up
shock tower mount
right there from there. Oh man, beautiful. Hey, Eric, what's your favorite memory with this car? Is it?
With this particular car?
Yeah.
It's probably, when I brought it home, my wife, who also is of similar age, so grew up with cars like this, her reaction is, what are you thinking? You have all kinds of cool Mustangs, and you bring this 80s little Econobox home. Why? And probably my favorite memory is after we got it cleaned up, she went, oh wow, it's really nice. So that's a tremendous compliment from where it started.
That's where it started. Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking your time to share your story and your beautiful car with us today. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching.